All right. Good stuff, ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. All right. Hi guys, welcome to Law Hackers. Today I'm joined by Daniel van Binsbergen, who is here to talk to us about Lexoo.co.uk, which he founded, was it last year or this year?
Last January.
Last January, okay. So fairly hot off the press, but you've been going for a little while. Well, I guess let's get into it, Daniel. Thanks for joining us. Can you just tell us, I guess, first off, what does Lexoo do?
All right. Well, Lexoo is a marketplace where SMEs and startups, on the one hand, can connect and find specialized, hand-picked solicitors. So anytime an SME or a startup is looking for a lawyer, they can post whatever they need on the platform, and we'll connect them to a couple of lawyers that we picked ourselves that we know are good in that legal area, and then the lawyers will provide the startups with a quote, and then the SMEs and startups can actually make an educated decision.
Nice. And about yourself, you're a lawyer by background. Can you just go into where you've come from before setting up Lexoo?
That's right. Yeah, I started as a lawyer about 6 years ago, and then I quit last year in order to start Lexoo. I used to work for quite a large law firm, mostly specializing in finance and M&A work.
Where was that?
I started out in Amsterdam,
Yeah.
worked there for a couple of years, and then about 3 years ago made the move to the London office of the same firm. It was a Dutch law firm called De Brouw, Blackstone, Westbrook.
Nice one. And I guess in terms of a trigger, you're now in startup world. What was that trigger to get you to set up a marketplace like Lexoo?
Well, I suppose I was just very excited about trying to start my own business, and this was a problem that I was being confronted with lots when I was a lawyer. I had lots of friends working for small businesses or startups, and they always asked me, how can we find a lawyer that's actually good, and what is it supposed to cost? I think it's quite easy to find contact details of lawyers these days online. You can just Google, there's plenty of directories, but that didn't really help my friends. My friends always said, yeah, but how do I know who's actually really good? Because, you know, if something messes up in the legal space, usually the damages can be pretty high. So they're always looking out for who is good and who's kind of affordable. So I would usually have to think of lawyers that I would know that are specialized. They often trained at large city firms, but who either branched out on their own or joined smaller firms so that their fees are a bit more affordable. So I started to create a bit of a short list of go-to lawyers for that type of work, and then I thought, well, that probably solves the problem for a lot more businesses if I create a marketplace platform for that.
Yeah, and so you started that last January. It's functioning, and you're taking customers. I mean, give us a sense of where you're at on this journey.
Sure. So the platform is more or less finished, at least the version 1. There's lots of things I would like it to do that it currently doesn't do. But broadly speaking, at the moment, if you go to lexoo.co.uk, you can post a job, fill in what you need, and then that will be sent to the lawyers that are actually specialized in that field. So our version 1 is ready, but we are working on a lot of new features to make it even more intuitive for the businesses, and especially to give more information. Because we found that although a business might have a sense of what they need, they often don't know exactly what it could entail. For instance, I spoke to a startup yesterday who needed a trademark, but then they didn't realize that they would have to decide whether they just want a national trademark or community trademark. So what I'm hoping to do is create a lot more flesh and detail around each legal area so that the startup kind of knows what to think about before approaching the lawyer. And then that way the quotes from the different lawyers should also be more focused on the same scope of work, which should make them more useful.
And so you're speaking to startups. Are they your customers, or is it the lawyers on the other side? Are they your customers? How does the revenue model work, and do you have paying customers?
Sure. So both sides of the marketplace I would consider my customer.
Yeah.
So I'll work equally hard to keep both happy and to keep both very pleased with our service. But on the customer side, I would say our target customers are startups, but also very much SMEs. So anybody who's running a business doesn't have their own lawyer in-house who could help them guide them to the right place would be our customer. At the moment, we're a startup ourselves, so we're in touch with a lot of startups. So through word of mouth, it has turned out to be that a lot of our initial customers now are startups, but we've also had some SMEs come through.
Yep.
So we do have a couple of paying customers at the moment, but we really haven't done any marketing yet. We haven't done really any work to bring our name out there. So it's been purely word of mouth so far.
Very early days.
Very early days.
Yeah. And are you happy to talk about funding and that type of, on the financial side of things?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we recently raised a seed round of investment from Forward Partners, and we had Jonathan McKay, who's the chairman of Just Giving, as an angel involved in that round as well. So we're at the Forward offices now. Their portfolio companies get to work from there, and we've been there 2 weeks now. So it's also early days here, but so far very, very pleased with the support we've gotten from them.
Well, it must be a big vote of confidence to get. I mean, it's a lot of work to raise money, as we all know. It must have been, a bit of a champagne moment at least.
Sure,
Yeah.
definitely. The funny thing about raising money, I suppose, is it kind of puts the business on hold for a while. So I was very eager after we closed the round to just get back to building Lexoo.
Yeah.
But it's definitely nice. You think, obviously, as an entrepreneur, this is a great idea and everybody's going to love this. But then you talk to some investors and they're like, we're not too crazy about this, or what does it add, or that kind of thing. So to speak to an investor who really gets what we're trying to do and is very supportive of the idea and sees how big this could be is really great. It's it's a boost of confidence, and me and Chris, my co-founder, were really happy about that.
Yeah, and just to bring Chris in here, he's your co-founder CEO. I understand he's the technical side of the business, so you've got that sort of dream match between a person who knows the business and someone who's technically minded. Is that how you guys work?
Yeah, that is how we work. I found Chris, I think at the end of December. I ran into him and we had lunch a whole bunch of times to see if we clicked. He's a great technical guy. He's got lots of experience building great things. So, and he was looking for a new challenge. So I met him, talked to him about the idea. It's actually something that he had run into himself, needing a lawyer for a couple of things. And so the business model clicked with him. We got along, and he's been very busy building the platform. And it seems to work quite well.
Yeah, well, a lot of entrepreneurs and startups, as you say, run into this problem. Legal tech, there's a lot going on in the space, and marketplaces in particular. So your model is certainly out there. Can you give us a sense of how you see the marketplace model working out in the legal space?
Sure, yeah. I think if you look 10 years ago, you started to see a lot of legal directories. So I think that was kind of the first step of bringing information about lawyers online. And I think they do solve a problem for a lot of consumers who are just looking for a local lawyer and their contact details. But I think to ultimately be successful in this space going forward, you're going to have to do a bit more than that, add a bit more value. And what I found with a lot of the customer interviews I've done before we started is that they're not just looking about the contact details or information on price. They're really looking for guidance from kind of an independent website showing them, look, these are the guys that we back. These are the lawyers that we believe are really good and give good value for money. So I think that component is very important. Now, indeed, the marketplace model has been around, and I think the market should be large enough to sustain maybe 2 or 3 players. I suppose in other areas like tech or designers, you always see that it kind of goes to 1, 2, or 3 big players, and it's able to sustain that. So I think ultimately the marketplace that will add the most value to the customer and give the most guidance should win this market.
Yeah, well, you're certainly seeing a lot of verticalization in the marketplaces, and industries setting up their own marketplaces, which law certainly has done. But even within the industry, you have the consumer-facing marketplace and then the B2B-facing marketplace, and I'm sure there'll be further subsections of it. I mean, where do you see you guys? Which subsection do you play in?
At the moment, just B2B.
Yeah.
We made a decision quite early on that it would be better to focus on one thing and do that really well than to try to be kind of all things to everybody. And I found that the lawyers who are working on B2B and are really specialized in one field, like intellectual property or only do employment law or corporate law, they tend to usually work for B2B. So I thought it would be better to have one clear platform with a clear focus so that any SME can feel comfortable that they're not going to be matched with a lawyer who's not a good fit because he usually works in a different area. So I think it would be a different game to really help consumers because their needs are slightly different. Yeah, so it's not to say that in the future we won't look at it, but at the moment I'm really quite happy to focus on the B2B market.
Yeah, and you mentioned you did a bunch of customer interviews. You're a lawyer yourself by background, so you already, I guess, know that market quite well. But despite that, have there been any surprises in behaviour or any lessons learnt in these early days?
Yeah, that is the case actually, especially because I work for a very large law firm. My understanding of what customers knew and what they were looking for was slightly different from what I came across when talking to SMEs and startups. So I spoke to a lot of agencies like recruitment companies, property companies, ad agencies, and startups. And I found that more often than I had expected, they would also not know what they did not know. So that's the problem they ran into, that they thought they needed X, and then after instructing a lawyer to do X, actually it turned out they needed Y, and then the quotes they had received were actually for a completely different need. So that kind of opened my eyes and made me realize that we have a lot of work to do to help clients self-articulate what they need better. So there's a big education piece there that I think we could really help clients with.
Yeah, and just finally, in the legal space, it's been a slow mover as it generally has been in a lot of areas, but in startup land, in the last 18 months, it has absolutely exploded. Lots of money being invested in legal tech and legal startups. Are you finding there's the same sort of flood of startups into this sector as I'm seeing? And if so, do you have any favourites, any ones that stand out in your eyes?
Yeah, I completely agree that it seems to be booming, legal tech. Now on Angel List, there's this great overview of all the legal tech companies, and I don't really know what caused that, but it seems to be that there's like a tipping point that now all of a sudden you're seeing lots of great initiatives. Personally, I really like what companies like Ravel and Judicata are doing. You know, Judicata, I think, has as their tagline the legal genome project. So I don't know what exactly they're going to come up with. I have played around with Ravel quite a bit, and being an ex-lawyer myself, I really enjoy seeing like how much more intuitive these tools are. And then you kind of think, well, wow, we stuck around with LexisNexis and Westlaw for so long. It's great to see a company really making a big jump. I mean, it's so intuitive to see how all the cases relate to each other. So I love seeing companies like that develop and create really cool products.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for your time and all the best for the future of Lexoo.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for interviewing me.
Beautiful.